Billionaire Pharaoh Olivetti was born under a lucky star. Starting his internet business almost from scratch, he rose to incredible heights and achieved everything one can dream of. Now Pharaoh can enjoy his life skiing, flying his plane, and having fun with gorgeous girls. A series of victories did not deprive the man of conscience. Unlike his competitors, he does not increase wealth by devastating widows and absorbing small companies. Pharaoh tries to act according to his conscience, remembering his father's words, "Victory is your enemy if compassion, humility, and charity do not go with it." However, even in his life, there are rough patches. While having lunch with friends, the billionaire receives a call from his mother, who informs Pharaoh that his father is dying and asks his son to return home immediately. He rushes to go, because the man has the best memories associated with his father. He supported Pharaoh at the beginning of his journey, unconditionally believing in his son's abilities and luck, giving him helpful advice, and rejoicing in his success. Father was only worried that wealth and power would prevent Pharaoh from finding true love. Meet a person who appreciates himself, not status or money. Apparently, this fear prompted the dying man to leave his son a bizarre last request. The father asks Pharaoh to quit his business for a while, go to a place where no one knows him, and live for at least a month without his money and connections. Pharaoh does not understand what his father is trying to obtain, but the last request is sacred. The billionaire leaves the business to his deputy Lawrence, swaps driver's licenses with his chauffeur Claude, and flies to New York. Pharaoh gets to the city by hitchhiking. He has no unique ideas on how to live this month. A man wanders around the town, sluggishly trying to get a job, talking to girls in a bar, genuinely saying, a handsome but unemployed and homeless guy does not succeed. He barely gets acquainted with the active dumpy Peta, who brings Pharaoh to her house, counting on a rough night. He had to lie about being gay and try to fall asleep to the sound of Peta's loud snoring. Pharaoh still has nowhere to go. Realizing that he can't fall asleep, the man wanders around the house, and in the next room, he sees Diana, who has fallen asleep on the couch with her friend. Pharaoh accidentally wakes up the girl, for what she, misinterpreting his intentions, puts the man out of the house along with things. But that's not the end of tonight's troubles. Pharaoh manages to get into a skirmish with two bandits on the street. He fights back, loses his bag, and gets caught by the police. Some random witnesses called them because they thought Pharaoh was a thief. It seems it is time to give up and regain the former name and status, but the man would not become a billionaire if he gave up so quickly. He uses his right to call to talk to Lawrence, but not to ask for help. Pharaoh gives a couple of requests to buy shares, then returns to the cell. Neither difficult living conditions nor a maniac neighbor can break a man. Meanwhile, Diana returns home. It is easy to notice that something is wrong with the girl. She is haunted by painful memories of the past, forcing her to cover herself in fear and avoid men. It upsets the girl's mother, who spends a lot of energy matching her with guys. Even Fortune seems to be impressed by Pharaoh's tenacity. In any case, happiness slowly begins to smile at him. First, the police catch the night robbers, return the man's bag and let him go free. Then the street seller treats him to a free hot dog, and in the end, the delivery car gently pushes Pharaoh, knocking him down. And this is a great success. The boy Fred was driving a car. He studies to become an entrepreneur, but for now, he earns as much money as he can. As soon as he finds out that Pharaoh is left without a cent in his pocket, he immediately offers him the position of the recently retired driver. Pharaoh readily seizes on this offer. It turns out that the same vile Mr. Curtis from the plane needs a driver. Currently, he is divorcing his wife and is in an even more disgusting mood. Still, Pharaoh, who introduces himself as his driver Claude and claims to have previously worked for the billionaire Olivetti, manages to win the trust of the new boss and still get the coveted position. The situation pleased not only him, but also the wife of Mr. Curtis Cat, and she's looking with interest at the new driver. Saying that he took a vow of celibacy manages the young daughter of the owner Nancy Pharaoh to back off from Pharaoh. However, some problems with a stepmother may appear. Nevertheless, Pharaoh takes on his new duties and serves as a bartender at a party, spilling drinks to guests, washing dirty dishes, and taking drunken guests home. At night, the handsome driver gets visited by Cat, who has to hide under the bed when Nancy starts knocking on the door. But that's half the trouble. Worse, following the daughter, lurking in the bathroom of a failed lover, is Mr. Curtis himself. It turns out he does not mind intimate adventures with servants of the same sex. Pharaoh has to use all his wits and tact to get out of an ambiguous situation without offending anyone, but he succeeds. In the morning, driving the boss to work, Pharaoh meets Diana in his office, who is not happy to see a random overnight visitor. And it does not matter to her that the employees, both women and some men, are crazy about the new driver. However, Pharaoh manages to win the girl's forgiveness by apologizing to her for a night of misunderstanding and offering to accompany her to a relative's funeral for moral support, truly saying, "Thanks to the clumsy priest, the funeral ceremony is almost fun." Pharaoh and Diana giggle softly, hiding their smiles behind handkerchiefs, and involuntarily relax in each other's company. After the funeral, they sit in a cafe and talk for almost 2 hours, feeling a growing mutual sympathy. Their meeting becomes more and more like a date. Having a straight talk with a new friend, Diana confesses that she lost her husband in the war in Iraq and has not been dating for a year. She has to live with her parents, who are constantly trying to force her daughter to do her own thing. Pharaoh listens attentively to the girl and gives her delicate advice, which wins her trust even more. In the meantime, the man admits he is not married and does not plan to become, as he loves his freedom too much. The man spends half a day in Diana's company and, in gratitude, receives a kiss and a promise of a new date when he takes her home. The only pity is that her parents see this, and they are not happy about their daughter's passion for some kind of driver. Diana's boss also involuntarily interferes with their meetings, forcing the girl to work on the day of the date. Still, Pharaoh is not lost. He accompanies Diana on trips to the apartments owned by the agency, and the young people continue to communicate. Their feelings for each other are growing every day. Pharaoh's personal life is going uphill, but things are not so much. Spoiled Nancy, seeing a man with a bouquet not intended for her, complains to her father about the chauffeur's harassment, and he dismisses Pharaoh with a scandal. Diana hears this. Unable to remain silent from anger, she stands up for a man and loses her job with him. Encouraging each other, Diana and Pharaoh try to figure out how to proceed. They are not ready to be discouraged, even though the girl's parents still perceive their relationship with hostility. The parents can hardly stand the man at a family dinner arranged by Diana, although they try to control themselves. Diana wants to move out of her parents' house as soon as possible and opens her real estate agency. Pharaoh supports the girl, and he tells her a strategy that will help him wipe Mr. Curtis's nose out of his clients. A happy couple celebrates the start of a new business in a restaurant, spending time having a pleasant conversation. Under the influence of a spiritual atmosphere and romantic dance, Diana confesses to her companion that she is in love with him. However, the girl suddenly pulls away when Pharaoh tries to go beyond hugs and kisses. She hardly tells that after the death of her husband, she acted carelessly, agreeing to come home to one of his colleagues to hear the last words of her beloved, and was raped. Now Diana cannot trust a man. Pharaoh does not insist on intimacy, he gently hugs the girl and simply attracts her. Diana's business is booming, and Pharaoh is in serious trouble. To resist the attack on his empire, the billionaire needs to personally come to California and appear before a judge arbitrating a lawsuit with an opponent of Olivetti. But Diana will have to be left alone to struggle with difficulties, and Pharaoh cannot bring himself to do it, especially since the girl again says she loves him. Wanting to speed up the development of events, he throws false information to his competitors, cuts out a few hours for a flight to California, and appears at the hearing, winning the case. But it's too early to celebrate. As soon as the man returns to New York, Mr. Curtis' wife Kat shows up for Pharaoh's new job and pounces on him with kisses. Diana, who sees all this, is amazed and outraged. For the first time in a long time, she trusted a man, opened her heart to him, and he betrayed her. She runs out of the office and cuts all ties with Pharaoh. There is no way to explain this to her because all the calls are intercepted by the girl's parents, who are incredibly happy with the daughter's decision to part with the objectionable admirer. Pharaoh returns home, but he cannot forget Diana. The mother's call puts everything in its place. The woman reminds her son that he never backed down in the face of difficulties. Inspired, Pharaoh flies to New York, where a yearning Diana forgives him. The lovers reunite and decide to fly to California together, and only concern for their business makes Diana worry. However, she believes Pharaoh has fallen in love with him and is willing to take risks. The only thing the girl on the plane asks for is not to hide secrets. Leaving the house with a suitcase, Diana tells her parents that Pharaoh will not marry her because he loves freedom too much. But if such news upsets an elderly couple, it does not affect the girl at all. She is ready to be close to her beloved, regardless of the status and surname on her passport. At the airport, the driver Claude meets the couple, whose name Pharaoh falsely used to introduce himself. Diana is amazed and shocked. She demands an explanation from the man and, it seems, is about to jump out of the car and return to New York. But Pharaoh's tenderness and story about everything touches the girl's heart. The young people arrive at Pharaoh's luxurious house. Now it is the man's turn to tell Diana what he has never said to any woman on earth. Looking into the eyes of his beloved, Pharaoh discards all doubts, admits that Diana is the only one for him, and then offers her a hand and a heart. The excited girl almost cries because she did not expect a proposal from Pharaoh and cannot believe she can be happy again after all the trials and loneliness she has endured. Of course, Diana cannot refuse a man. A happy couple merges in a tender and passionate embrace. At the wedding, where Pharaoh appeared in a colorful tie with the symbols of New York, among the guests, there were friends and acquaintances of the newlyweds, and even Mr. Curtis arm in arm with a handsome male employee, who eventually caught the wedding bouquet. Everyone in this story is waiting for a great happy ending,